Let's invoke the presence of the Masters in this satsang. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Great Masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashay, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, Saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. We invoke your presence in today's chanting, meditation, and satsang. Help us feel your joy now and always. This next chant is: From joy I came, for joy I live. In sacred joy I melt again. And when we do this chant, try to feel that joy, that upliftment. And like sometimes you would say, joy is the solution, not the reward. So feel that joy as you are chanting. joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy in secret joy I went again. From joy I came, joy I live. Secret joy I went. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, joy I live. In secret joy I went again. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went. From joy I came, for joy I live. In secret joy I went. This chant is by Swami Kriyanandaji, originally written in Italian and translated. You fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song, in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. You fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song, in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song, in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, I
I dance through life with you. I sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. You fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. Sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song in sorrows gone, ever free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. Your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. You fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. I sing your song in sorrows gone, joy I live ever free. You fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. Sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. You fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. Song and sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life with thee. Sing your song and sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Fill my heart with music, dance through life. In sorrows gone, in joy I live free. Fill my heart with music, I dance through life. Sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live free. Sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. I sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live ever free. Sing your song in sorrows gone, in joy I live Let's meditate now. We'll meditate for about 10 minutes. Try to tune in to the feeling of divine joy in the heart as a pleasant sensation, as bliss. Sometimes if you just feel sensitively, you can feel it as an awakening of feeling. And then offer that feeling, whatever you feel, up to the point between the eyebrows. Feel that joy permeating your entire being. And let's meditate, feeling joy of God within ourselves. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Again, greetings and welcome. My name is Nayaswami Devarshi. This is Brahmachari Vineet. Here we are at our Kandala Monastery with our twice a month, bi-monthly, I guess it is, webinar. And before we begin, I just want to announce that we'll be changing what we're doing here. And this will be the last of the Autobiography of a Yogi webinars and sort of the first of a new way that we'll be doing it. We'll also be taking a 3-month break from doing these. The monks here in India, many of them will be traveling in the next few months, including to the United States for the 50th anniversary of Ananda Village, and just different things we'll be doing there. And so we'll be taking a break of 3 months or so. And then in September, we're going to restart with a different topic, a different approach, and we'll be doing it every week. And so what we'll be doing in September, and we'll start with tonight a little bit of this, is that we'll be taking each week one of the 52 topics of Swami Kriyanandaji's affirmations for self-healing. And part of the reason for this is that we just want to share with everybody some of the practices that we do here in the monastery. And every morning at our morning meeting during the week, we take the reading of the week, read the short passage, the description of the topic. We do an affirmation together, and then there's a prayer to conclude it. And we do the same one for the week, and then pick up another one the following week. And the topics of these, it's just a year of inspiration, enlightenment, insight, but also really working very powerfully with affirmations. Topics include success, love, happiness, energy, sharing, work, contentment, devotion, forgiveness, self-confidence, awareness, humor, acceptance, openness, tonight's topic, which is joy. And so this is a very beautiful way to go through all these different attitudes and qualities and really affirm them and make them part of ourselves. And there's also just a great deal of wisdom that Swamiji gives in the readings themselves. And we'll talk about affirmation, how to use affirmation. And we'll be doing the affirmations twice every time that we do these webinars. And so starting in September, and we'll announce it and we'll email people and let everybody know, we'll start with a new series. It will be from 8 until 8:30 every Friday night. And so we won't have the meditation beforehand. It'll just be starting at 8, going until 8:30. So we really look forward to sharing this because we've gotten a lot out of doing it every single morning here as part of our daily sadhana. And we hope to share other practices that we're doing in the monastery with you all. We also will be having a website within a month or so that also just shares blogs by our monks who are living in the monastery. It will be anandamonastery.org. It's not live yet. And we will also just have videos and different ways, again, of sharing what we are doing here at this monastery that we really feel inspired to share with the world, because we are not just doing this for ourselves. And so Vineet will start this week with the topic from Affirmations for Self-Healing, which is joy.
Okay, so the topic, as Devashiji was sharing, is joy, for what we'll be doing today. So first I'll read a few sentences which Swami Kriyanandaji has written on this particular topic, and then we'll do the affirmation. When we do the affirmation, we'll do it 4 times. First, we'll do it out loud, then in a normal voice, then in a whisper, and then mentally. And then following that, there'll be a brief prayer. So let's tune in first to what Swamiji says about joy in this book's Affirmations for Self-Healing. Swamiji shares, true joy is not an emotional state. It is not that which one feels when some desire is satisfied or when everything at last goes well. It is inward. It is of the soul. It can be developed first by not reacting emotionally to outward things. Don't be tossed on alternating waves of success and failure. Don't join in their excitement, the buyers and sellers in the marketplace of this world. Be calm in yourself, even minded and cheerful through the gains and losses of life. Then, in calm, deep meditation, feel the joy of the soul. Hold on to that joy through all activities. Don't confine it, but try ever to expand it until your little joy becomes the joy of God. Let's affirm together, first out loud. I am even minded and cheerful at all times.
I am even minded and cheerful at all times.
I know that joy is not outside me but within.
I know that joy is not outside me but within.
I am even minded and cheerful at all times.
I am even minded and cheerful at all times.
I know that joy is not outside me but within.
I know that joy is not outside me but within.
In a whisper, I am even minded and cheerful at all times.
I am even minded and cheerful at all times.
I know that joy is not outside me but within.
That joy is not outside me but within.
Now, mentally gazing at the point between the eyebrows, I am even minded and cheerful at all times. I know that joy is not outside me but within. In the calmness of meditation, at the heart of my inner peace, help me to feel thy thrilling, joyful presence. Okay, so this was the affirmation for today, joy. And I was just so, I felt these words, the ending words of the prayers, just so powerful. Help me to feel thy thrilling, joyful presence. Just that word thrilling. How often does one think of joy as thrilling, one which thrills the heart? And what did Master say about joy? He said God as Sachat Ananda, referring to Adi Shankara, and when he translated it into English, he said ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss, ever new. So it isn't that in meditation or in our day-to-day life, when we feel that joy, after 10 days we feel, oh, it's boring now. No, it can't be boring because it is ever new. It's fresh every single moment of our lives. And again, Swamiji, in that reading, he shares that it is not really dependent on outward circumstances, and we should try not to, try not to. Let me read his exact words. Actually, he says, "Don't be tossed on alternating waves of success and failure," and it's very interesting because one can think that, oh, okay, I'll be happy or I'll be joyful when this happens or when that happens. But it isn't really that I will be happy when this or that happens. We have the power and the potential to be happy at this very moment. And why do we do anything that we do in our lives? We do it at the end to be joyful. And some of you might have heard this story, and maybe some of you haven't, but it is worth mentioning this story that there was once a fisherman who was just by the side of the coast, and then there was another, I think he was a businessman, and he came to him. And this fisherman was very simple. He would, sing in the evenings, and during the day he would just go out into the sea or just by the coast do his fishing, and that was his life, very simple. And he would just enjoy spending time with his friends, with his family. And this other person told the fisherman, there are so many fishes out into the sea. Why don't you, with the money you have, buy a ship, hire some people and get into the sea, get more fishes and sell them out into the market? That way you'll have more money and you'll be happy. And this fisherman thought for a time and for a moment, and he asked this man, well, and then what? And then this other person replied, then you can have more. With the money you accumulate, you can buy more ships and you can employ more men, and then you can catch more fishes, which will give you more money. And he said, okay, and then what? And then he said, not only in this coast, but you can go expand everywhere. And it just went on and on and on. And the fisherman had the same question. He said, and then what? And then finally, this person just got like furious that what's wrong with him? He's talking here about money, about riches. He can have his big house. He can have everything. And then this man finally, this other person, he finally replied, and then you can have the time in your life to sing, to spend time with family and friends, and have a good time, a leisurely time at the end when you retire. And the fisherman replied, well, that's what I'm doing right now. So it isn't that we have to wait for everything. And yes, some things in life have importance and we need to do them. We have duties in life. But if we do them with a joyful attitude, then the whole thing changes. And as Yogananda ji said, God is ever new joy. And some of us may remember from the autobiography of a yogi. And because we are transitioning from autobiography of a yogi, I might as well share a story from there. And we've shared the story before, but it's a very important one. When Master Paramahansa Yogananda ji had that experience of cosmic consciousness, of samadhi, in that chapter later, he goes to Yukteswar ji and he asks him, so when will I find God? I want to know. And Yukteswar ji replies that you have found him already. And Yogananda ji says, oh, no, no, I don't think so. And then Shri ji goes on to say that one might have the entire world, but still not have the presence of God. I'm paraphrasing him. But he says it's not spiritual phenomena, this or that, which says that yes, we have finally found God. But then he goes on to say, ever new joy is God. When we feel the joy of God in our meditations, in our day to day life, then we have God. And then one simple question would be, how can we have that joy? What are the ways? I was just thinking about it, that what can we do in our day to day life to feel that joy, to feel that bliss? One simple answer is meditation. When we meditate, we feel that it's not the outside world, but deep inside we go and we feel that it is joy. And then we realize that it isn't that person, the other person, is holding me from my joy, that I want to be joyful, but because of this situation or that person, or just for any reason that I am unhappy or unjoyful. There is no such thing as unjoyful, because in divine joy there is no opposite. And so if there is anything between joy and you, it is you sometimes. And that you is including me. And if we can just get rid of that if we can just let the divine flow, and like Devashiji was sharing during meditation, if we can feel that joy deep within in our heart, then everything we do in our life also becomes joyful. And it is not that we have to do something to get this joy. It is just like Swamiji would share, that in the very presence of Yogananda ji, Swami Kriyananda ji would share that in the very presence of Yogananda ji, he just felt so much bliss. And he shares that when he was with Yogananda ji physically in the body, he would just, during talks, he couldn't close his eyes and meditate, because many times Master Yogananda ji would be looking at him. But there was a point when Yogananda ji wasn't sharing particularly on a spiritual topic. It was just something very mundane, like filling potholes by the road. And Swamiji didn't have anything to do with this particular project. And he was just sitting at the back. And he thought, oh, he just closed his eyes and meditated. And even in that mundane sharing, there was just so much joy. And again, it wasn't really what he was speaking, it was just that deep vibration which came through Master. And just one last story about Swami Kriyananda ji and Master during their time together, that before I turn it over to Devashiji, that when Swamiji was once, he was with Master, but he couldn't really see, he was at a distance and he couldn't really see Master's eyes, Yogananda ji's eyes. But by just looking in that direction, he felt such bliss, such deep feeling of love, that he just couldn't move. It was so deeply moving to him. So, friends, it isn't outward that we'll be able to find this joy, or it isn't that if we fix this thing or that thing that we will find joy. It is a deep, deep feeling, and all we have to go do is go within. And with that, I will turn it over to Devashiji.
Thank you, Vineet. In Autobiography of a Yogi, I will honor our Autobiography of a Yogi Daily Wisdom app by having a few readings from that app for the last time. But in Autobiography of a Yogi, that word joy and bliss, those two words, I did a word search one time just because those words just keep showing up here, there, every chapter, it seems. And so they're there like 150 or 170 times, those two words combined throughout that book. And in the very first chapter, Yoganandaji, even as a young boy, he has an experience of God as bliss, as joy. And he says he has this experience where he was sick and he was praying, and these divine angels and beings came to him. And he writes, out of the slow dwindling of my divine ecstasy, I salvaged a permanent legacy of inspiration to seek God. He is eternal, ever new joy. And so Yoganandaji, even as a child, he defined God as eternal, ever new joy. Swami Kriyananda wrote an article about Yoganandaji, and he said that Yoganandaji, Sri Yukteswarji was a Gyan avatar, an avatar of wisdom. And the others, I don't remember what they all were. These are great avatars. He said that Yoganandaji was actually a bliss avatar. And Yogananda himself said that that's how he found God. I know that others, he was also a Prem avatar, an avatar of divine love. But in fact, Swamiji points out that when his disciple, Sister Gyanamata, when she left the body at her astral ascension ceremony, he said that sister, she found God through wisdom or Gyan. He says, my way was bliss, was divine joy. And so this was the way that he found God, but also I think he, in some way, that when we tune into him on that level of God as bliss and the bliss coming through him, I think it's just something that becomes very real. We look at some of these photos of Yogananda, and he was in ecstasy most of the time, probably all the time. It wasn't always expressed outwardly, but he was and is a bliss avatar, an avatar of divine bliss. This was the January 4th reading from the Autobiography of a Yogi Wisdom app. Another reading from there, and many of these readings have to do with divine joy. I'll just read a few of them though, is Swami Sri Yukteswarji, who talks about the limitless joy of God, but he also makes a wry comment that he just had this wry humor that you have to appreciate sometimes when you look into it. He writes, or he said, the Lord has created all men from the limitless joy of his being. Though they are painfully cramped by the body, God nevertheless expects that souls made in his image shall ultimately rise above all sense identifications and reunite with him. And this is an important point. Before I get into the important point, I just want to point out that Sri Yukteswarji, just the way he says that God has expectations of us, is just very Sri Yukteswar-like, that he expects that these souls made in his image will rise above it. And Yoganandaji talked about how much God loves us, and Sri Yukteswarji about God has expectations of us. I just appreciated that, the way he has of looking at the universe. But he says that the Lord has created all men from the limitless joy of his being. This is very important. In the poem Samadhi, which is Samadhi bliss that Yogananda is talking about, there's a line there, and Vineet chanted those lines as part of a chant. From joy I came, for joy I live, in sacred joy I melt again. And we came from joy. Swamiji talked about this very often, that God made us from joy, from this bliss of God. We expanded from that bliss. And Swamiji said that near the end of his life, as he was really tuning in more and more directly to bliss and having the experience of bliss more and more, he says that it's the nature of bliss to want to expand and to grow and to share and to get bigger and vaster. And so Swamiji actually, when people would ask him, why did God create all these souls in the universe? And he said it was because that bliss just wanted to expand and grow. And he said it's the same with souls. When we start to experience divine bliss, which is really just who and what we are, we came from joy, we go back into joy. And so when we meditate, really try to understand this, that we came from joy. Joy is not something we need to achieve. It's not something we need to strive for. It's really only something that we just need to find within ourselves. And this is why it's very, very helpful. And I would just recommend experimenting for a time, weeks, months, meditating during your meditations on divine joy, because it is there. It is who and what we are. Every atom of creation, every cell of our being, every part of us is divine bliss. We came from bliss. We are made of that bliss. And meditation really is only just trying to tune into that, trying to remember it, trying to get past all the veil of delusion, the mud that's covering that divine bliss. But it's there inside of us. And so when you meditate, experiment with meditation after you do the techniques. And when we practice true inner communion after Kriya Yoga, for those who have the Kriya technique, tune in and try to feel divine joy. And it is a feeling, and I'll talk about this in a little bit. It's not a thought, it's not an idea. We don't think our way there. If we just figure it out, and people just think, if I just figured it out, I would be happy. And we spend so much time in our heads and in our minds. But Swamiji said God is feeling, and that feeling is divine bliss. And so during that time in meditation, work more with feeling and trying to feel that joy within. It's there. All we have to do is just look for it. And by looking for it, I mean working with feeling and just trying to sensitively tune our awareness, especially start at the heart center. That's where we start to feel it. Again, in Yoganandaji's poem Samadhi, he talks about that experience in cosmic consciousness. And he says that he experienced it and he cognized it, the way he put it in that chapter, from a point of intuitive perception in his heart. From a point of intuitive perception in his heart, not in his head, in his heart. That's where he saw, experienced, he saw all these cosmic visions in the universe, and he saw through the walls of the road that he was at, from that point of intuitive perception in his heart. And so when we meditate, try to feel that energy in the heart and try to feel that joy in the heart. And if you just sensitively start by just even trying to feel any pleasant sensation there, and then start to go into that joy in the heart and try to feel it expanding and growing, and then try to lift it up. You can offer it up, or you can just feel it naturally rising up. Swamiji said one time that when you practice Kriya Yoga or other practices that dissolve these vrittis of karma, which are just whirlpools of energy in the astral spine, he says that when we dissolve karmas through many practices, through devotion, through grace, through having a perception or an experience of God, that when those vrittis are dissolved, he said they release bliss. And he said that bliss has a natural buoyancy, just to rise up the spine in a natural way. And so when you meditate, try to feel inwardly that divine bliss and try to feel it naturally rising up the spine to the spiritual eye. Another last reading from the Autobiography of a Yogi app, which is November 21st, which is the one that Vineet referred to and mentioned, which is that after that experience of samadhi, the young Mukunda goes to his guru, Sri Yukteswarji, and says, when will I find God? And here he just became one with the universe and one with God. And I personally think he was having fun with his guru. The guru just gave him cosmic consciousness. And he goes back to his guru and says, so when am I going to find God? I can see the joy and the laughter and the humor behind it, and just kind of teasing his guru, the relationship that they had. And Sri Yukteswarji replied, as Vineet pointed out, ever new joy is God. He is inexhaustible. As you continue your meditations during the years, He will beguile you with an infinite ingenuity. And so this divine joy never gets old. One of my friends here in India, who I've known for many decades, Nayaswami Haridas, I heard him one time joke about that same old ever new joy. And and he was, the joy that he said it with, obviously, it wasn't for him the same old, ever boring, ever new joy. It was truly ever new joy, and it is. It will beguile us with its infinite ingenuity, creativity, and its expansion, because joy, its nature is to want to grow and expand. Swamiji, one time in an interview towards the end of his life, he was asked by the interviewer, "What is God?" And this is when he said, "God is feeling, more than reason, and that feeling is bliss, Sat Chit Anandam. We were made from that bliss," is what he said. He says we cannot be happy until we found that bliss of our own nature. And this is what I've seen. Anytime that we are suffering, feeling pain, unhappy, there's really only one cause. There's only one reason. We think we're suffering because of this, hurt that we have from somebody or in our body or health karma or challenges. We think those are the cause why we are suffering, but they aren't. There's only one cause. And that cause is that we have forgotten that we are one, that we are made from divine bliss. And I have found that that is the way out of all suffering, is just to remember that. And I have also found that, it helps to have years of meditation behind me. But I have found that when I'm going through challenges of karma or severe physical pain, that again, if I just look and feel and listen sensitively, I can always find divine joy behind the pain, behind the suffering, without exception, when I've really stopped and listened and gotten very still. So meditate on joy, meditate with joy, with enthusiasm. Tune into divine joy, the divine joy of your own being. You'll find that this is the way out of all suffering, out of all sorrow, out of all pain. Again, there's only one cause, which is that we have just forgotten that we are made from joy and that we are one with divine joy. So I will conclude again by reading this affirmation, which we will do together on joy. And again, we'll do it first out loud, and then more and more quietly, and then mentally. I am even-minded and cheerful at all times.
I am even-minded and cheerful at all times.
I know that joy is not outside me, but within.
I know that joy is not outside me, but within.
I am even-minded and cheerful at all times. I know that joy is not outside me, but within. I am even-minded and cheerful at all times. I know that joy is not outside me, but within. And now mentally only, I am even-minded and cheerful at all times. I know that joy is not outside me, but within. And mentally pray in the calmness of meditation, at the heart of my inner peace, help me to feel thy thrilling, joyful presence. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And I think I will just close also just by reminding everyone again that this is the last of these Autobiography of a Yogi webinars, and the last of our webinars until September sometime. So we'll be taking a break, but then we will start every week, every Friday from 8 to 8:30. We will take a reading from this beautiful book by Swami Kriyanandaji, Affirmations for Self-Healing, which we do every day here at our Ananda Kandala Monastery, and just share the joy and the inspiration that we get from these daily and beautiful sacred practices. Namaste.